As sisters.
Cops.
Taxi drivers.
We were night and day.
Have a strange take on the truth.
See it all.
You're there at the scene like referees looking the other way when the penalty occurred. You see the result, but not the action.
The back seat of a cab is like
If I wore stripes, she'd wear
an airport.
paisley. If I wanted to go to the beach, she'd want to go to
A supermarket.
the mountains. If I liked the tall one, she'd insist that the shorter one was
The goddamn stage.
more interesting. It was classic,
Where everybody
constant,
and every type
and reassuring.
has got some part. I've had the rich, the poor, retired plumbers, teenage dealers, giddy prostitutes,
Sisters separated by less than a year.
and serious nuns. The whole world's been in my back seat.
It makes you real good at listening.
I mean, I don't want to brag, but I'm good, damn good at sussing up a character from a 2-second glance.
We'd been in the pattern for as long as we could remember. The result
And it's even worse.
was that she was completely predictable, at least to me, and I suppose
And more interesting.
I was as easy for her to read.
Got to be good at it.
When you're in missing persons. It's what's kept me going. 17 years in the same department. That search for the needle in the human haystack. In fact,
Our predictable differences never drove us apart.
in missing persons, you know the best piece of evidence is going to be missing.
No, we didn't so much as compete with one another as complete one another. At least until men came into our lives.
It becomes almost a passion.
You drive in taxi, you've got to know what kind of trouble you're picking up before it settles in your back seat.
To figure it out and build a case from next to nothing.
On good days, the two halves of a perfect child. On bad days, the two halves of the devil. We were as close to being twins as you can get without actually being twins.
Like the time about a month ago, this black guy, a kid almost,
Like when this young black male
couldn't have been more than 25, 30.
and young white gal
At least until she
vanished
disappeared
last month.
a month ago.
Gets in my back seat at 2 in the morning wearing a t-shirt and Bermuda shorts and carrying a couple of fat plastic bags and says,
Poof.
"Fort Point, please."
Obviously,
Your best evidence is
knowing her as I did could be crucial to the solution of this tragic
gone.
I'm ready for the worst.
mystery. Call it historical intuition, sororal empathy, or the sympathy of blood. A sister's knowledge of a sister is at least a credible source of information as a detective's jottings in a police report. Ah, but try to convince anyone in the police department of that. They're hopeless, absolutely hopeless. My sister has been missing for over a month. Vanished, gone, disappeared with hardly a trace. And what have the police done? Little more than assemble the most amazing range of irrelevant details. Mind you, what they know are the facts, nothing but the facts, but their facts tell them nothing. This is the evidence, says the relentlessly plodding chief detective. Indeed, I'm tempted to respond, evidence of your inability to see the forest for the trees. I mean, really, what could this thick-minded detective possibly know about my sister's motives, and why, in the middle of the night, she suddenly vanished without a word to anyone, including me?
All we know is this. The two had been lovers and publicly passionate about it. They met at a party, big party, hosted, interestingly enough, by her sister. And anybody who remembers anything remembers that he recited a couple of his own poems and that both danced often and only with each other. From that night until they disappeared, it seems they were virtually inseparable. Sure, passion is no guarantee that love is going to last. Love at first sight ends in a blinding fight, as they say. And that's exactly what at least the girl's family would like us to believe. No, sir, love is an unacceptable premise under these circumstances. Something like that doesn't fit the mold, doesn't meet proper expectations.
I thought I'd picked up a drug deal. And it wouldn't have been the first time. Hell, I've seen more going on in my back seat than I did in 2 back-to-backs in Uncle Sam's army. And even have the scars to prove it. Here, in one side and out the other. And this was after I'd given him the cash, a little 9mm tip. Oh, and here, yeah, a guy was on some sort of bulldog drug, angel dust or speed. Starts arguing with me about how to get to where he's going. Then pulls a knife and starts hacking at me from the back seat. And then there was even this couple once, real nice looking and all. They get in a nice part of town. They tell me to take them to some warehouse. I get there, they get out, then pull a gun on me. I fork over the cash, then they shoot out my 2-way radio, my 2 front tires, and my roof light. My goddamn roof light. Nice touch. Real nice. Yeah, I jump to conclusions, you bet. But that keeps them from jumping me. I may be wrong from time to time, but at least I'm still around to wonder about it. And I ask you, honestly, what would you make of it?
You could put all the evidence in the world in front of somebody's face and
That's what's so incredible.
if they don't want to see it, they won't. Red is blue to the man bent on
Black
blue.
guy
Not even a word.
gets in your cab at 2 a.m. with a couple of heavy bags.
Somebody.
And tells you
To me,
to take him to a dark, low cliff next to the bay.
her sister.
Disappears.
What do you think?
Has to be a crime. A terrible crime with a mutilated body somewhere. And if I don't find it, then honey, I'm just not doing my job.
I'm telling you.
People would rather believe the worst in their hearts than accept the best on paper. And let's face it, evidence, no matter how good it is,
It looked bad.
The yin to her yang.
isn't much of a substitute for
The poet to her practicality.
a kiss.
The daring to her discipline.
And that's just part of it.
But not just because he was, well, a black guy.
In this case, you got a family who's got traditional reasons not to want to accept the facts. I swear, I think the best story for our missing couple would be the hardest story for the family to swallow. You got one sister in particular who's choking loudly on the pill.
That alone should impeach any notion that her fate was anything but unexpected and violent. But this suggestion
It's a combination of jealousy,
Let's get that straight.
backfires on me.
personal frustration,
Sure, I noticed it.
It suggests that, to certain with
genuine concern,
First thing I saw, but it didn't necessarily mean anything.
certain narrow expectations of their own,
Seriously.
I am
You've been in the army as long as me, you get used to rubbing shoulders with everybody.
a hint of something that smells an awful lot like
Black,
deluded.
white,
racism.